My job for the past 6 years has been as a private tutor for high schoolers. I sit with them, always one-on-one, and try to help them however I can. I work on all kinds of subjects, different things with different students. What's always true is that I'm there to help organize, whether it's organizing ideas or time on a calendar.
Oh yeah, we're not against each other.
But try as I might to be formal, sometimes the work leads to conversations that actually interest me. The kinds of conversations I'd gladly have off the clock. One of my students, Lucian, is interested in philosophy. Lucian's always ready to talk about what he's reading. This past winter it was Albert Camus' The Stranger.
The body, the mind, and the spirit.
And Lucian started telling me all about The Stranger's main character, Meursault.
If I were a tree, I'd be here. But as a human, I project kind of, there's a there-ness about my being, fundamentally.
Meursault, in the beginning of the book, is a man only capable of sensory experience. Someone who can only take in the sights and sounds and vibrations of what's immediately in front of him, but who can't perceive any meaning or interior in things. But all this changes when Meursault is sent to prison after committing a crime.
In Camus' writing of this, he recognizes this sort of in-between of fiction and reality, which is there's sort of what is, there's what isn't, and then there's sort of what we think about. What we think about is under the umbrella of what is not, but there's a distinction between what isn't and our thinking about what isn't. And I don't mean to get too abstract, but he sort of sits in his prison cell and what he does is he remembers and he keeps on thinking about his life and he keeps on thinking about the world outside of prison. He comes to this conclusion that like he could be placed upside down in a hollowed out tree stump, and after a while he would adapt and he would live a happy life upside down in that tree stump with no experience. There's experience and there's thought. There's experience and there's thought grounded in reality.
My student Maggie lives with her family on a farm in Hidden Hills, near LA.
Go up and see the chickens too.
Oh yeah?
I need some footage of them. There might be an egg.
Maggie introduced me to her pigs. and her chickens, and her 9 goats.
We moved here when there were 2 goats, but the 2 big ones are twins that we found on some like weird Craigslist offer. She's not the smartest. She came with Scooby though, that one. And hi. They were also someone's, and they didn't want her and her brother, so then, yeah.
Hi.
Sorry about Muffin.
That's okay.
Hi.
That's
There's
all
no way to discipline a goat, so they're smart,
Yeah.
but they're not receptive. Kip, come here. Oh yeah.
Hey.
You can never exactly put your finger on reality. I mean, at least for me, I don't think there's any way to completely understand the difference between what you think something is and what it actually is when it's something that's super abstract. So yeah, just kind of making peace with the fact that some things you'll just never fully grasp. But
I wonder if that's one of the benefits or powers of owning animals is
Yeah.
they kind of open you up to accepting that, as you say, you can't put your finger on reality.
Yeah, and they're just, I mean, for me at least, they're the one, like, a person will, you know that they have their own thoughts and realities, and they have opinions about you and the things that you say, but an animal, I mean, the language barrier for sure makes it so that you can kind of just spend time with them, say what you want, and they're not gonna judge your outfit or what if you say something wrong, they're not gonna remember and hold it against you, and they don't recognize anything different about you that a person would. So yeah, it's freeing. I think everyone should have at least one pet.
There are a couple ways to read what Maggie's saying here. At first, it sounds like she's saying humans are opinionated, animals aren't. Animals won't, for example, judge what you're wearing.
There's so many just completely unusable pictures of them.
Right.
But I think a more interesting reading of her comments is possible. Which is, we don't know what's in an animal's head.
Such an interesting camera. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
We'll probably never know what thinking is for an animal.
Kip is.
And we can't
this
share a
is
code
the
with
cra-
them.
I've never met a
Beyond
like,
sit and lie down, the
personality
relationship's
like
blind.
Hey.
But this blindness actually makes the relationship more expansive. It puts us on a different plane of logic.
Pumpkin is very nice.
By comparison, our communication with other people is limited because it leaves no room for imagination.
Hi, Pumpkin.
Hi.
Yeah, you can move him.
Honey.
Yes.
I wonder if a teacher, like me, is the opposite of these goats.
But she's not the brightest bulb.
Hey.
Teachers insist on concrete communication.
No, not the brightest bulb. Come here, mister.
They want to translate life into code.
Come on.
I tracked down another student, Sabine. Sabine's interested in architecture. Do you think abstraction and ideas play a role in architecture? You know, architecture is partly a practical, concrete thing. Is there room for abstraction?
Definitely. Something that we talked about a lot was the Lefebvrean triad, which is basically a space has three, I don't want to say sides, but it has three like kind of meanings at once. And it's perceived, conceived, and symbolic. And this is like a very rudimentary explanation and understanding of the Lefebvrean triad, but conceived is like what the architect thinks of the space. Like, oh, you know, the design. That it's basically like, this will have 12 steps and this will be however inches tall. That's a conceived space, you know, like just the plan, what is drawn out. And then the perceived space is like how it is used by the public, you know, like how do people circulate through the space? Like, what do people use the space for? That's perceived. And then symbolic, which is kind of, I think, what you're talking about with like the meaning at the last 10 minutes of the film. Symbolic is like, what does this space represent, and what has it like, what has it been appropriated by? I'm thinking, I read this really interesting blog post. It was about like the El Toro stairs, and it's this famous set of stairs at a high school, and it was saying like, you know, the conceived space is the height of the steps, and you know, wherever it is, the perceived space is, oh, it's at a school, like people use the steps, walk up, you know, to go to school. But the symbolic space was that because of the length of the stairs, I guess, and like because there's no railing in the center, it became this like insane place where people would do all their like skating and BMX tricks. So it became like this huge skate spot and like this like cultural phenomenon, to the point where the school like had security patrolling the steps, and then eventually ripped the steps down because they didn't want people to be doing that anymore. But that's the way that like the conceived space, what the architect is designing, is only 1/3 of what the space actually is.
An idea can overtake reality. But how's that work? The architect says, I'm building a school stairway, which will be used to walk from one class to another. The world, starting with some students extending to a vast skater community, has a different idea. Their idea is way more compelling than the architect's. But why is it more compelling? Their idea was rooted in a longing they felt when they looked at the stairway. Something irrational, but unshakable. The point is, this longing was durable stuff. Once it formed into an idea, that idea was almost impossible to destroy. People around the world now had no choice but to look at this concrete formerly known as a stairway and see its actual identity. All this reminded me of a conversation I'd had with my student Cody. We'd been broing out over a shared passion, photography.
what really makes a photo special is the personality and the passion that goes behind it. So I mean, I would say that there's this one photographer, street photographer in New York, Trevor Weiskup. His photos, there's so many people who do street photography. His photos are special and unique because he puts a lot of passion and personality into his photos. His photos really represent who he is and not trying to be someone else. His photos are uniquely him, and he said this in an interview that his photos are himself, and no one else's photos are going to be like his photos. Not because they're better than anyone else's, but because they're his photos.
What about AI? Where would AI fit into that? Fit into what you're saying right now?
I think AI can't. I think there is no passion, there is no personality. It's just a robot using its incredibly smart calculating system to calculate what's the best photo that people will like. And it may have a photo, and you may like it, that it's not going to have the passion, it's not going to have the personality. Its personality is ones and zeros.
This is fake rock.
After Cody left and the sun started going down, I found myself back at this weird cave.
On these things that you're passionate about, it can just be really humiliating because it could end up in failure. You can end up falling. You could end up saying the wrong thing. At least with soccer and like my relationship now, just kind of like within my relationship, I think I want to be with this person like 24/7. And if that's not like able to happen, then I get upset. And I think it's because I'm a little bit obsessed. And I think that's where it gets unhealthy, is like I'm just so obsessed. Like it can just get in the way of experiences. And I don't even know if that is passion. Like I feel like there's just such a thin line between passion and obsession. And like fear. Like I think when you're obsessed with somebody, you can get scared easily. Whereas with passion, like you want to take risks and jump into the unknown because you're gonna get better at whatever thing you're doing. Yeah, there's just like a lot, like fear, obsession, and passion. I think they just kind of like they're interwoven in certain ways.
So in the beginning of the book, Vardaman catches his fish and kills this fish. And it's around the time of his mother's death. And in a confusing moment, he says these exact same words he states these exact words. My mother is a fish. These words show Vardaman's perception of his mother's death, in that he's unable to perceive his mother's death that is reality, and attempts to connect it to something that is real in his life, the death of a fish. And in doing so, it allows him to actually accept that his mother is dead, because it is the closest thing to reality that he can perceive to. Any young person in their life, any child in their life couldn't really perceive a parent's death because it's something that happens so quick and so fast, and they haven't lived through much of life to really experience death. So for someone so close of them to die to them, they can't really understand what this meaning is. They've lost someone who they've known for their entire life and who takes care of them. And for someone to lose someone like that is hard because you don't you can't really take it in and you can't understand it. So because it's human nature really to understand, Vardaman, being a naive character, attempts to connect it to the most sensible thing he can, the catching of a fish, which is tragic, but it makes sense because in order to understand and cope with his mother's death, he must learn that he must come to understand. He is forced to connect his mother's death to the fish's death.
What is it about death, do you think, that is difficult to understand?
Well, someone you know, someone you've lived with, someone who is very real to you is gone. They are non-reality. And it's something that we have to learn is permanence. I mean, it's like a habit. Like if you cut out a habit and it's gone, you're going to always think of that habit and you're always going to try to go back to it, but realizing you can't do it, it's something that we struggle with. So in recognizing that something that was reality is now non-reality is weird because it was something you're so used to, and every now and then you grasp for it and it's just gone, and you beg for it to come back, and it's just, there's no coming back from it. And even like in dreams, you may think it's real and you may like see that person, or you may, experience that person, and you may, it may make you feel real, but like once you wake up, you recognize that it was all just a non-reality and it is truly gone. That is why death is such a hard concept for everyone to grasp.
So, this young man, Hayden, isn't like the guy in the book, and there's no fish here. In Hayden's version of things, people are capable of dying. We grasp for ways to believe they're still here, but they're not.
It's a little noisy where we are now.
disrupting the audio?
I mean,
Is Hayden making a statement here, or is he doing the opposite? To me, it'd be a statement to say that your mother, who just died, is your fish, who also just died. It would also be a statement to say that your dearly departed is in heaven. Heaven is a place, but away isn't. So to say that someone's gone isn't really a pronouncement. It's just an observation. This kind of detached observation is deceptively hard. And I'd say that if there's one big difference between me and my students, it's that when I was their age, I thought I knew everything. Now I'm 36, and so many answers about the world, about myself, elude me. I lost the ones that were there. But also, something's grown inside me that resists answers, that just wants back the freedom and musing of youth. Am I just an artist, infatuated with ambiguity? Someone who glamorizes uncertainty? Am I someone who knew too much at a young age and missed out on being ignorant, loose, and free?
Who's to lose? My dog, my boy, he's gonna be like a little, upset. It's telling you and wondering why you don't want it to touch. So why? I love her so much. I was so excited for
Or someone at odds with the norms of the world, opportunistically using my time as an educator to unlearn everything. All I really know is that I want to live. And not upside down inside the stump. But getting out of the house, feeling the sun on my back, and jumping into the cold water. These things have never come naturally to me. That's probably why I choose to sit around and talk to kids. But excuses. If I sit inside all day, listening to records and waiting for my students to go do great things, then that's on me. I'm gonna go do it. I'll quit my job and start living in the world. Right after I get a little sleep.